He's very shy, so be patient with him. He's from the Marius group. As I said, that's based in West Virginia and Virginia. There's a group of practices that have gotten together there to do business. He is working in the Everson practice in Martinsburg, West Virginia. There are 2 advisors, including himself, and 2 other staff members, an administrator and an office manager. And Phil, you shared a little bit about your role already. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I mean, it's just as you can see, we're a smaller group, so a lot of these things, which key management actually helped with, is we sit down and determine who's going to do what in the day's practice. But a lot of the tracking thing, a lot of them, not all, but a lot of them fall on me, what we can take care of in the meeting and what needs to be done in the meeting. So a lot of those do fall to me. John, I guess, is probably the only one that really isn't actively involved in some of the tracking tools. John would be the only one. So part of the tracking tools, and I've said this from day one, because I came from Merrill Lynch, to where we didn't have, or I didn't anyway, I didn't have tracking tools. It was a sticky note on the screen of my computer. Sometimes it got done, sometimes it didn't. But a lot of those tracking tools, FAT being one of them, that, you know, even though I'm referred to just as an expert, I'm an expert at also recognizing when we don't properly utilize some of the tools, and FAT's probably one of them that we don't properly utilize, but I'm very familiar with it.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So our objective today in our time together is to share with you how you can use both total view and future assets to maximize opportunity and tracking for your practice. So let's start with some basics. What is total view? Some folks are familiar with it, some aren't. Some of it's a little vague for us, so let's just have a high-level review here. It's a home office provided tool that allows for client account aggregation. That is, the client creates access for advisors to see all their accounts in one place. So not only do we have access to the Ameriprise accounts, but also information on bank accounts, mortgages, credit cards, outside investments, everything that they can link, a little bit like Mint, but without the budgeting side. We help them with that. And that updates daily. That is, the system goes and looks for the most recent information to keep what you see up to speed. Total view can be particularly useful with planning clients. However, it is informational only and doesn't create any prompt for action. I want to take a moment here to ask a poll question, so if you're at your machines, you can answer this for me. The question here is your practice using total view? So that should appear on your screen here. I'll give everybody a moment to check it out. All right. Well, we've got a couple more people still voting. I'll let you go ahead and do that, and then I'll close the poll. Thank you. Well, of everybody who voted, everyone said yes. Well, that's great news. I expected there to be some no's. So I'll be looking forward to having a little bit of discussion with you. That said, if you have been using it, has that been positive so far? And if not, if you haven't used it, you didn't answer the poll question, is your practice considering it and you just don't know how to get into it? Can anybody share with me how that's working for you so far?
Question. It's been positive in every aspect for us. There's been glitches where it says updates daily. There's some accounts that don't update daily, and it's not really something that we would, I guess, in a distant way, we use it for. A lot of people put their credit card balances on there, and those are the ones where we had issues with it updating on a daily basis. But for the most part, our planning clients, we don't have a lot of credit card debt. But so it's not been, the credit card part of it hasn't been useful, but that has been the one thing that for whatever reason it doesn't update daily. But it's been a huge tool for us, for me anyway, because part of what I do in the meetings is I want to make sure that, whether I'm running the meeting by myself or if we're together, that we have the outside statements and that we're updating the FAT. And if they're enrolled in TotalView, I can kind of leave the client alone, and I can get that done either before or after, preferably before. We can track those assets then. So it has been a huge help.
Great. Anyone else? Has it been a positive experience so far? TotalView? Nobody wants to talk to me today. Okay. We'll move on then. So we talked to Phil a little bit before we got together today, and he shared with us that they're still implementing TotalView. It's been very helpful so far, and he shared some pros. He said that TotalView allows for updates without having to bother people, which you just mentioned, Phil, getting all that information in one place at one time and allowing you to be more proactive about things. You also mentioned that there can be a disconnection when a client updates a password somewhere else, and that the home office TotalView resources haven't been perfect, and that your practice uses it with planning clients. So I'd just like to check in with you here. Can you elaborate a little bit more on those struggles that you've experienced, the disconnection specifically?
Yeah, and it's the disconnection is occasionally, and we're part to blame for this because I guess we just didn't realize it ourselves. But if I have, let's use an outside fidelity 401k, whatever it may be, and those are really the main focus of the TotalView assets that we want to see for a multitude of reasons. But what happens is occasionally, just like we with our websites here and so forth, they have to change their passwords. So if I have to change my fidelity password, I also must go into TotalView and change it on the drop-down box where I've actually enrolled. Otherwise, it won't update. So it's trying to get into Fidelity and pull that information over. But Fidelity said, hey, this password that your dog's name from 2012 no longer works. So then you start to get those little hazard signs, and I think the client gets an email telling them to do that, but in a lot of cases it gets ignored. So that's been the one con that can be diverted if, once you're explaining it to a client or once you're going through how to do it, if you make sure that they know, if you change your password to something that's connected to TotalView, then you also must change it inside TotalView as well. So I think part of that's due to us not explaining it at first because we didn't know. But the second part is what I have noticed since then, because I've been paying more attention to this since I talked to you, Brandy, is those that use TotalView completely stop using their outside that third or the second account, or third, fourth, and fifth account, the Fidelity account or whatever it may be. They stop using it and they just look at it on TotalView. So they may have forgotten their old password in order to reset the new password, and that's where there's been a kind of lapse in service on the TotalView point, just because the client's forgotten their passwords.
How do you combat that as you work with clients? Do you warn them now on the front end when they sign up that it's important that when they change the password? Absolutely.
Yeah, we warn them up front that if you change your password, don't get rid of your Fidelity or whatever it is. Don't lose that password wherever you got it hidden, wherever it's stored away in your brain or whatever. Don't lose it, because once you have to change it, you also have to change it with TotalView. And on a pro side, if they're using their Ameriprise accounts to view those outside assets as well, they'll get a little hazard sign, even though they haven't logged into their Fidelity, Great West, or whoever it may be. They'll get a little sign saying, hey, you need to fix your password. You got a password issue, and then they can go in and do that.
Good. Great.
The other con, the home office, and I have gone looking to see if there's better resources for it. It's somewhat limited. So someone will come into the office, and maybe they don't know their Ameriprise password, so we can't do this with them right in front, so we can explain it, walk through TotalView, how to do all these things. They don't recall or they don't remember their Ameriprise password. They got it written down at home. So you have to verbally explain to them how to do this, and that gets difficult because there's not that we found a real good option inside of Compass to go in there and say, okay, this is what it's going to look like. There is an interactive piece, but it stops, and I can't figure out why, but it stops at a certain point where you can't get through everything. You can't go through, okay, this is the drop-down box where you add an account, but that's where it stops. So there's been a few times where people went to enroll in it. They did enroll, but they never added any outside accounts. They just got stuck. So that's kind of on the agenda for the next time they roll through for us to get that fixed. So the resources aren't perfect. They're not bad. You know, I went looking through them again after I made that statement talking to you, Brandy, but they're not bad, but they certainly could be better.
You mentioned that you put together a PDF that you can use.
Yeah, it was basically a screenshot of a handout or a tutorial that was inside of Compass. We screenshotted it and PDF'd it. But again, it's limited on how far you can go because it's a PDF.
How are you using it with planning clients?
With planning clients, Lisa, who does our financial plan, so she's one of the four. She will actually go in there instead of looking. In a lot of cases, she may go because I guess this could be seen as a con. When they're on Total View, we stop getting statements. Now, someone may say, well, you don't need them. They're on Total View. But if something trips along the way, if the passwords get messed up or they stop using it altogether, whatever it may be, and those assets no longer show on Total View, well, we don't have statements anymore. And that's kind of where the FAT comes into play as well. So if you look on Total View and say, which is exactly what I said, well, I don't have to do this FAT for these clients anymore. No, not exactly, because we have had a few people where the disconnect on the updates and so forth. So now we can't see that account. Well, go back into FAT. Well, that's 3 years old, dummy. You should have been updating it all along based off of what was on Total View. But Lisa uses it to update their outside accounts. She also uses it for mortgage debt. We always encourage someone, if they got a mortgage, if they can log in online, to put that on Total View, put the value of their home on Total View. You can do that through offline accounts. And, of course, they're planning clients, so those credit card debts, their auto debts, anything that they can get online, we encourage them to use that. And so a lot of that information that I would be responsible for getting, is if I kind of trip up and I don't get it, it's right there for Lisa to grab a hold of.
Fantastic.
And I will give you one other small story that it was an educator that they had a change of funds inside of their account. And I only knew this because it happened to my wife. She works in the school systems around here. But there was a change of funds, and there was a notice that was sent to the client at some point that, of course, they didn't have it with them, that essentially said, hey, we're moving assets out of this fund. This new fund will be available. However, if you don't make an electronic election into the new fund or call us, it's going to sit in a money market account. It's just going to sit there until you do something with it. Well, most people, I'd be one of them as well, if you're constantly getting things in the mail from the same place, you probably assume a privacy statement or it's an account statement, you shred it, you go on, you don't even open it. Well, apparently that happened. So when I looked at her Total View account before she came in, I noticed, because it actually breaks down the assets. Where's your money? And where you have the most money? Well, she had 300 and some odd thousand in a money market, sitting in cash. And I thought, whoa, what's going on there? So she comes in and I ask her. I said, hey, your account with Great West, what's going on? Why is it in cash? Why is there so much in cash? Did you get scared? What was the deal? She had no idea. Well, she was in a target date fund. And that target date fund changed companies. It was simply it. But she made no further election, and it went into cash. And I don't know how long it was sitting in cash, but we fixed that immediately. So without Total View, because, again, statements, we like to get them from clients, but whether or not if she would have brought a statement in or not is another story. It could have been sitting in cash for quite a while. Cost her a good bit of money.
What a great catch with Total View.
Yeah, we caught it with that, and then she fixed it.
So one of the challenges
Brandy,
that many practice. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I had a question. This is Stacy. Marianne wanted me to ask because her speaker is not working. She wanted to know if he only uses the Total View for the planning clients, and why, if that is the case.
No, we use it for everyone. Anyone that's computer literate that we can talk into it, we use it for everyone because it's not just a planning tool. It's also assets that we want to capture at some point down the road.
I would say for the reason you just said, even. Catching that lady's cash.
Yeah, catching mistakes. And you never know. I mean, they could talk to a friend at work, and that friend at work had said, hey, this fund has done great, and they move all their money into this one fund. And they told you they were 50-50 mix, and you come in and they've got 401k assets at 100% equity. Well, if that's what they want to do, that's fine, but we've got to adjust what's going on here. And
Right.
clients simply don't know. In a lot of cases, they just simply don't know what those funds mean. They just know that their buddy Jim said it was a great fund, and they're going to put everything in there and take that advice. So we've caught mistakes like that. You know, it didn't make sense. It didn't. We know this client to be this type of mix and this type of risk tolerance, and then you look at a total view or a statement, but you see it and like, whoa, what is this? What's going on? For what reason is this there? And we could talk to them about it, find out the reasoning. 99 out of 100, I don't think it's been 100 times, but most of the time they just had no idea what they were putting their money in.
That's a great example. Thank you. Marianne and Carrie, I think I fixed your audio, so you should be able to speak now. I think it was on my end. There you are.
I hear you, Carrie. You're there. Yay. Hello.
Cool. So one of the challenges that practices face in implementing Total View is how to get them registered. How and when do you do that? Do you do it before the meeting, during the meeting, after the meeting? I've even heard some practices mention having a special event that's aimed at the online experience and trying to get clients in with a bank of computers to get those things going when you're there to assist them. So I'd like to ask the practices that have joined us today. Phil shared that they're using a PDF and discussing that in the meeting. How are all of you introducing that to your clients? Georgia, are you using Total View? Yes. Yes.
Yes, this is Georgia, yeah. So Phil discusses that with clients during the service meeting, and then we haven't really done any hand-holding as far as getting them signed up into Total View. We certainly encourage them, and we talk about, you know, the benefits for them to do so, but we've talked about doing we've talked about doing all of these that's on your slide, you know, before they come in, you know, to their client meeting. You know, you've been in our office, so we're in a unique situation. We're in a P2 office with about 10 different practices here. So it's not like the lobby is all ours and it's just our client in there and stuff. So we have some limitations as far as being able to, for the staff to meet with the client. We've talked about some special events, you know, holding a Total View webinar, kind of walking them through how you might go through and sign up for that. You know, so, and I don't know, I'd have to let Amber speak to, because she's the paraplanner who's collecting the data for the service meetings, to get an idea about, you know, how many people are signed up on Total View. Amber, are you back with us?
Yeah, I would say it's about 15, maybe 25% of the clients. So when it initially came out, we got brochures and we presented it in every client meeting. But you get some people who are interested and they've done it, or some who will enroll but they haven't linked their accounts. So it helps when we do have it. We don't have to. The big thing was we don't have to bother you for your balances annually. It's all there.
Mm-hmm.
So, Smiley team, it might be wise for you to touch base with the Cornerstone team. They also are operating in an office with lots of individual practices. There are some team practices, but there are some privacy issues there. So if you're interested in speaking to another practice about and doing a little bit of brainstorming about how to accomplish that goal, that might be a good connection to make.
Okay.
And I could provide you that contact information if either of you would like. Marianne, you're the one who does the majority of the coordination for Cornerstone. Perhaps you could reach out to Georgia if the two of you are interested to think through some of the possibilities and maybe use each other as a sounding board there.
Can you hear me?
I can. Hi.
Oh, you can. Yay.
I can. You're
Hi.
here.
I'm here. Georgia, we're actually trying to come up with a process right now. Same situation like Brandy said. And I think what we're thinking about doing is having our admin greet the clients and then bring them back to her office and go through just, a few things, and one of them being total view. We're not sure if we're going to have her help them, sign up, but at least show them the demo at this point. We're kind of dealing with time management, so we just have a few things to figure out.
Yeah. And we don't even have that luxury because we share. We work in a 3-person work space office, so we don't even have that privacy. Yeah, we do a lot of web meetings within our practice, and if it's a person who hasn't been on a web meeting before, then Carrie will set up this one-on-one time with them to get them acclimated to the web and teach them how to get to the web meeting and show them how to use it so that when Phil is ready to have his web meeting, we don't have any technology issues at the time. So again, I think hands-on, if you can do a webinar kind of thing with them, but you definitely have to talk to the person because you don't both want both husband and wife doing total view. You just need one of them to do it, but enter everybody's data because then you get all the duplicate if they both do it. So I think it's really a one-on-one works really well.
So let me ask you a question, Georgia. This is Stacy from Cornerstone. You said to only have one of the couple do this. Now, can, say, for instance, Mr. put Mrs. individual accounts in there?
Yeah, and the way we approach it is that, so for instance, my husband is the advisor, so we have a total view account. But if each individual person enters in their own stuff, when you're talking about all your assets and liabilities, if I go in and enter in all of our non-qualified accounts, because those are my accounts, right, our joint accounts, and if he goes in and enters all of the non-qualified, then you have this duplicity of accounts. So now your net worth statement is overstated. And if you have a house, then only one person needs to enter the house because you don't want your assets to be overstated. So you basically just need a person to enter the data for all of the assets and stuff. Or that's how we prefer, because we want a total net worth statement on a person who's on total view. So we prefer just working with having one of if it's a couple or whatever, having one of them take the lead on creating the total view account and entering in that information and have it all pulled through. Because if you don't, you're going to get, if I just go in as a client and enter just Georgia Smiley stuff, and then Phil goes in and just enters Phil, to me, we don't want to see a net worth statement like that. We really prefer to see the total net worth statement. So we convince them to do one total view account. Now Phil, not my Phil, but Phil McCoy, the content expert here, Phil, you might have different thoughts on how y'all do it from that perspective.
Typically when there's a husband and wife, and we do try to walk them through it if possible. The only time that we could do that though is if they remember their passwords, which is sometimes a challenge. But yeah, of course, one person, in almost every relationship, I said it when you were saying, I was thinking about my wife and I. Yeah, almost one person would always know all the passwords. It does work out that way. That takes care of all the online stuff, or who does the bills or whatever. So yeah, one person take the lead with it has been the way that it's worked for us as well.
And I think another key thing, and everybody on this call may very well know this, but I don't want people to assume that because we are Ameriprise and we're encouraging our clients, because it's one of these, we call this a sticky feature. We want them to do this because it keeps, statistics show that you know, if they have the credit card, if they have, you know, something like Total View, if they have property and casualty, they're more apt to keep all their assets with you or whatever. So we call it sticky features. But they also have to enter in all of those Ameriprise accounts. Just because we are Ameriprise,
Yes.
sometimes they assume that, oh, it's Ameriprise and it's just going to automatically pull in my Ameriprise account. So it is very critical that we educate them. No, they still have to enter in those that Ameriprise login, because Total View is a third-party software, and it's just aggregation tool that goes out to get all of their assets. And so they have to enter in the Ameriprise stuff also.
That's a great tip, Georgia. Thank you for that. So we've talked about Total View a bit. Let's shift gears just a smidge to go over to Future Assets, which is one of the tools in KMG's suite of tracking tools in Connect. It offers an inventory of opportunity both held here and away. Assets or business opportunities held here with the broker-dealer, certificates, annuity conversions, insurance opportunities, cash to be invested, things of that nature, as well as outside assets, which might include employer retirement accounts, certificates, investment accounts held in other broker-dealers, proceeds from property sales, annuities, no inheritance, a whole host of other things that can be held away from here. It provides some transparent and readily available data to make sure that you're able to make comprehensive recommendations a bit easier since you've got all that information in one place, and helps prompt when assets could be available for opportunity or might be in need of review, because it's organized by follow-up dates. So you can assign an appropriate time for that to become relevant, and that may actually be between client meetings. Another feature of the Future Assets is that it provides a historical record of those assets that have been converted and opportunity realized. So as you complete those things, indicating that you've converted them and they're here, you can go back and look at those completed items to see in any given time frame, sorting through Connect in the way that you're looking for, how much opportunity have you been able to turn into reality for your practice. So I've got another quick poll question for you, asking you, does your practice differentiate between business opportunities and outside assets, or basically does everything go in all under one umbrella in your tracking tool? I believe there's a third choice if for some reason you have abandoned Future Assets and are not using it. Maybe just another moment to vote if you haven't already. All right. Not sure if it displays the results on your side, but the answer here is that a third of you are indeed differentiating between assets held here in Ameriprise, and 2/3 are not. May I ask those of you that are not differentiating between the two why that is?
This is Carrie from the Smiley practice. I have recently started doing the Future Asset Tracker, and I'm kind of confused, I guess, just about it as a whole. I don't differentiate. I just put everything as outside assets because I don't know. I just assume everything's an outside asset. Unless it says an Ameriprise account on it, then I just don't even put it in there.
So that could be more about communications. When you get the information, you need more information in order to do that. Your advisor isn't necessarily telling you where that account is or where the opportunity lies. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, that probably is true. I just think we need more, I think we just need a bunch more training on the Future Asset Tracker. I know I do.
Well, we can arrange that.
Good.
So at the highest level, though, to just help clarify today, The two choices within the future assets are business opportunity and outside assets. So think of it as inside Ameriprise and outside of Ameriprise. So if you can tell that it's an insurance sale that Phil is looking to make, or an annuity conversion that he wants to do internally, that would be an inside or a business opportunity because it's held here at Ameriprise. Anything that's more like a 401k or a known inheritance or funds from a property sale or anything that may be cash at a bank that's very clearly not at Ameriprise, you could safely mark that as an outside asset and then just follow up on the ones that are more of a gray area for you. But we'd be happy to help you sift through those wherever we can to make that a little clearer for you.
Okay, and the reason we just have a different type of like spreadsheet tracker that we track everyone's assets and stuff on. And so the reason I only put the outside ones is because my original instructions were just to do the outside assets.
That's right. You're not fully implemented on the future assets because of your fundamentals sheet that you use.
Right.
Right. So great question. I'm making a note to follow up with your team to see if I can help maximize your use of that anymore.
Hey, Brandy, this is Georgia.
Yes, ma'am.
So you know that we have our fundamental spreadsheet. So we have a lot of planning clients. We can produce a net worth statement just in a 3-page Excel document that we track for all of our planning clients. Mm-hmm. So I put on the owner's hat when I say why we use future assets. We use our fundamental spreadsheets when we're looking at opportunities and things like that. In addition to fundamental spreadsheets, we have stock spreadsheets if they have a lot of stock in their companies, and, you know, where they're employed and stuff like that. So we have stock grant worksheets, stock appreciation rights worksheets, stock option worksheets. So we have a lot of that stuff. So we're tracking those just in a different format. So future assets for the Smiley practice is really as an owner looking at it so that I want to be able to, when I get ready to sell the business, I want to be able to look and see what all the outside assets are because it brings a tremendous amount of value to the business bottom line. So, and it's the one way that as the business owner, you know in one fell swoop what you have outside of Ameriprise. You know, I can run 26-year, you know, pay period. I know where all the internal assets are. But if I'm selling my business, then I can look at future assets, and all I'm concerned with are outside assets at that point to add value to my sell price.
Which is an excellent example of one of the reasons that we always encourage, regardless of what your other tracking methods are, for you to aggregate that information here in future assets because of that added value as an owner. One is being able to quantify what has been realized, but also, as you said, if you're looking to sell your practice or a portion of the practice, maybe you're just looking to sell a lower decile. You want to be able to show the value, both assets under management as well as the opportunity that's been unrealized, because that can serve you well in your sale price. Great point, Georgia. Thank you for sharing that. So, Phil, I took the liberty of grabbing a screenshot from your actual future assets. I took this sample because it had a real good variety of the types of things that we encourage you to keep inside this tracker, and also that you had a great example of one where you don't really have a ballpark figure. The one at the top here, you've got $1. Can you share with the listeners here why it doesn't have a larger dollar amount? Certainly you wouldn't track if we were looking for $1 in stock.
Typically those were put in years past, and to be honest with you, when you see $1 or something along those lines, that means it hadn't been followed up on properly, or the client doesn't know. They simply don't know. what the value of what the outside stock is. Or we've even got, if you dig through there, we've got a few clients that, believe it or not, that's got buckets of coins in their basement. So things of that nature we may put in there, but what's a bucket of coins valued at? So we may say, hey, it's coins, and then put $1 in for its value. All that we really know is that they got some coins down there. So it could be have value to them, or it could be completely worthless. We don't really know.
So I wanted to share this screenshot with everybody because you do have a good variety of the types of things that are valuable to track, and the fact that you have that $1 in there. We make a best practice recommendation, if you don't have a ballpark number, to put $1 in, so it's very clear you didn't just miss it. It's not a mistake. You really don't know. It might be that it's land that they've got in another state, and you have no idea if it's 90 acres or 9,000 acres. You just know that they've got land, and you don't want that to fall off your radar. So you might put $1 in there so that it's clear. This is a great example of the use of this tracker. Let me ask you, Phil, real quick, how do you determine who the follow-up person is in your practice?
In most cases, it's going to be me. So it's easy when there's just two of us. The
Sure.
advisor is always listed as John because everything goes under John's name. Even if it's a client that's never met John, it's still going under his name. And then the case where you see the follow-up person is Phil, well, before I got here, the follow-up person was always John, and that was a good way for me to indicate, okay, I've had my hands on this. This is my doing, is to replace his name with mine. And that 90 acres of farmland, this is some of the issues that I'd seen walking in, is nowhere near worth what we have listed there. Nowhere near that. So we're continuing, and I know who that is, and we're continuing to try to get a value on that. But anytime we ask, it probably should be $1, because our answer is I don't know. I have no idea what it's worth. So I don't know where we came up with that number, but it's not that.
But in the way that you're using it, that lets you know that you haven't yet been able to determine that because your name isn't on it.
Yes.
So that's useful. Great.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just a little inside trick for me to see, my fingerprints on it. So I could do that.
So why are total view and future assets so important? For you, in the practice, it helps you keep an eye out for potential business opportunities. Take a proactive approach and prevent opportunity from slipping through the cracks between client meetings. It simplifies planning data collection and helps you monitor opportunity not just at the client level but at the practice level, which you touched on, Georgia. For your clients, it allows you to deliver the best financial strategy when you have the complete picture of their financial situation, having all of this information between the two tools. It provides an exceptional client experience to them, allows them a safe and simple way to communicate account information versus transporting the physical documents, which used to be the old way of sharing things, which is very helpful. Is there anything, Phil, that you would add to this list of benefits for using the two?
No, I think it'd go back where I don't see the part where we had found that someone was invested in that they weren't. It wasn't proper. So many times and they kind of see right through that. Oh yeah, Phil wants to put this on there so he can always keep his eye on it because he wants to roll it out, and that's in the back of their mind. But when someone comes in and you say, hey, look, I was looking at your investments inside of there. There's actually one good, we had a PIMCO fund that we were replacing for all of our clients, and it was in almost every single 401k. So when people came in, and I didn't solicit that account to see if they were eligible to roll some of it out. I just said, hey, by the way, part of our recommendations today or at our last meeting was to replace this PIMCO fund, if you recall. And they're like, oh yeah. See, I just noticed it's also in your 401k. So I don't know what your other options are available because you can't see that inside of Total View, but you may want to consider replacing that, and then you typically get a phone call back, and they're appreciative that you actually did provide some sort of service on the account without soliciting the business for it. So it's good for someone mentioned making money sticky. It's good for client retention because on some level it does show that, you know what, they do care about what's going on in my financial life, not just what's going on at Ameriprise, what's going on everywhere else as well.
Naturally, that goes to that exceptional client experience.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we use the two tools in conjunction for a greater impact? We've talked about the benefits of each of them, but how can you use them together? What we recommend is that future assets and total view if preferred should be reviewed prior to client meetings. That allows you to add to the agenda any items that require review or recommendations, which Phil, you've touched on a couple times. We recommend that all items from total view should be added to or updated on future assets after the client meeting to provide prompts for action. Often those prompts need to happen between meetings. So if you use the follow-up process as a way to capture that information in total view, it's part of your daily routine, whereas total view is simply there only when you refer to it. Future assets keeps it top of mind when it's relevant. And total view should be absolutely referenced when applicable for entering data for planning clients to ensure that the most accurate information is included. I have another quick poll for you, although I see we're very near the end of our time, and I absolutely don't want to keep anybody if you've got somewhere to be. I've got just a few more minutes. If you're ready to stick with me, great. If you need to drop off, I totally understand. The first question I've got for you is, do you include total view and or future assets as part of your meeting prep? So are you looking in those things as you're getting ready for the meetings and potentially adding those to the agendas? Great. I'll close that. The vast majority of you said yes, that's wonderful news. And then there's one more follow-up question to that. Do you update future assets as part of your follow-up? Is that a piece that's yet to be implemented? It is part of the CMOT. The weekly recap runner in me will remind you that you should be updating future assets, but are you using total view to do that more specifically? Great. The vast majority of you are voting yes. That's good to hear. Thank you for sharing that. So Phil, through our chat together before we got ready for this presentation, you mentioned that you weren't currently using the two tools together. They were kind of independently functional for you. What have you learned through our discussions that you think you can take away and use?
Well, there's no prompt. There's no prompt for follow-ups, and a good example would be in-service distributions. So if we have someone that's eligible for an in-service distribution, we have a local GM plant that they are. We've done it a few times, and we also have clients that has money in those 401k plans. Well, a good follow-up date would be their 55th birthday, which I think is the date for GM for in-service distributions. But there's nothing in total view that's going to prompt you to go look at that, what's going on with this. Another thing that we still currently fail on is we're one of those that did not draw a line between outside assets and business opportunities. Business opportunities, I wish I could rename to inside assets because we also have, in some way it's certificates that are coming due. Annuities that have, especially secure source annuities that have the withdrawals that are available to roll out, whether they need it or just you can take it out and put it in an IRA, whatever it may be. But that'd be a great place for those inside assets, those opportunities to use. And that's something we have failed at as well. So in the case of the certificates that have maturity dates in between your meetings, so if it's a maturity date of September, I'm backing up on you a little bit, but if it's a maturity date of September and we meet in July and January, well, that's a problem. You're never going to do anything with that money if it's not on future assets where it's going to pop up and remind you.
Absolutely.
So the prompt.
Interesting that you say you'd like to see business opportunity renamed. That was feedback that we received through the Connect survey that we sent out earlier in the year, and we're listening. We haven't had an opportunity to implement some of the feedback that we've gotten, but it's all something we're working on, and you're not alone in that. So stay tuned for that piece. So there are some resources that are available for you about each of these tools. There are numerous Ameriprise resources available on Compass, many of them through the Resources Marketing and Online Experience path. But if you simply search Compass for Total View, you'll get a whole host of actually pretty good, not perfect yet, but pretty good resources that will help you navigate around and learn a little bit more about what it's capable of, what the client experience for it is like. And we've also got the Future Asset Ownership Guide, which is located in Turnkey Solutions inside the client experience in the number 7 practice tracking folder. Quick question for you. Has anyone watched the tutorial on Total View? I actually sat down and worked through that, and did you find it helpful?
I did. I've watched it. It's I'm trying to think back at how long it took. I know that I didn't use it with clients because I thought it took a little long, and there was questions that needed to be answered. I've found that the PDFs that we had screenshotted or printed and saved, whatever it may be, and the demo has been more helpful. I just can't. It's so frustrating. I can't understand why the demo stops at a certain point. It seems like it's got the ability to take you all the way through, but it stops. But the video I thought was a little long to go through with clients. I'm already bored them to death as it is.
Does anybody else have any go-to resources for these items? All right. Well, I want to wrap up because you've all been troopers sticking with me through our technology issues and getting started late. So at this point, I'd like to ask you if you have any questions for myself or Phil or each other that we might be able to address here as we're putting a bow on this one. Okay.